Today, we're diving into a concept that sounds like high concept science fiction, but is unfolding right in front of us. We call it the future's backdoor. To understand it, we need to revisit a few cultural landmarks that quietly prepared us for the world that we now inhabit. Think back to 1999 when The Matrix was released. Most people saw it as stylish science fiction, a simulated reality where humans were unknowingly plugged into a system, green code shaping their perception of life. It felt philosophical and cinematic, intriguing but distant. It was entertainment, not infrastructure. The idea that reality itself could be constructed, filtered, or programmed felt abstract.
And yet, here we are. We no longer just watch stories about simulated layers. We live inside layered realities every day. We talk about the algorithm as part of normal conversation. We debate whether our perception is filtered by invisible digital systems. We question what is real, what is curated, and what is constructed by platforms we rarely see. Entire industries revolve around virtual environments, augmented overlays, and digital identity. The language of simulation moved from movie dialogue into everyday speech. The code isn't a metaphor anymore, it's architecture.
Exactly. It stopped being fiction and became infrastructure. The same thing happened with Black Mirror. When that series began, viewers described it as a dystopian exaggeration. Now, many of those early episodes feel like documentaries that arrived slightly ahead of schedule. Social scoring systems, deep fakes that blur truth, immersive digital spaces that rival physical presence. None of it feels shocking anymore. It feels familiar. And that familiarity is the key. It reveals something powerful. The future shows up in imagination before it shows up in form.
That realization matters deeply for conscious reality creators. Those who understand that inner perception shapes outer experience. Collective imagination is not passive entertainment, it is rehearsal. Culture dreams first, then it builds. The reason the future feels like déjà vu is because it had already been visualized, debated, and emotionally processed in consciousness before it appears as hardware or policy. And that is the back door. If you can see what is being rehearsed in collective imagination, you can sense what is preparing to manifest in the physical world.
This leads to what I call the whisper before the shift. Every major societal or technological leap is preceded by an emotional adjustment. Before something becomes real as a product, it becomes imaginable. And before it becomes imaginable, it becomes discussable. And before it even becomes discussable, it begins as something quietly felt. Dissatisfaction, curiosity, a sense that something else is possible. Society has a bandwidth for what it can accept. If an idea arrives too early, it's dismissed as impossible. If it arrives too late, it feels obvious. The sweet spot is resonance, when enough people can sense the shift without fully understanding the mechanics behind it.
Think about conversational artificial intelligence. 20 years ago, speaking daily to an AI system would have felt uncanny or even absurd. Today, it feels normal, not just because the code improved, but because we collectively adapted to digital mediation, remote interaction, and algorithmic assistance. The inner acceptance happened first, the infrastructure followed.
That's the principle. We don't build what is technically possible just because we can. We build what consciousness has normalized. That's why science fiction, speculative art, and philosophical debate matter. They're not just prediction, they are pre-echoes. As a conscious creator, imagination is not escapism, it's participation. You aren't simply watching the story unfold, you are contributing to the narrative field from which that story emerges.
And here's where it becomes practical. The future rarely arrives loudly. It grows in small communities, research labs, niche forums, and overlooked conversations. Before cryptocurrency became mainstream, it lived in obscure developer circles. Before mindfulness entered corporate policy, it thrived in spiritual communities outside the spotlight. Before remote work became widespread, it was quietly tested by freelancers and distributed teams. What looks like fringe is often simply early.
That's crucial for reality creators. To access the back door, watch convergence. Notice where neuroscience merges with artificial intelligence, where biology merges with computing, where ethics merges with engineering. When separate fields begin sharing vocabulary, something deeper is forming beneath the surface. Take biodigital interfaces. Whether a specific company succeeds is less important than the direction of the travel. The boundary between mind and machine is becoming negotiable. Wearable devices monitor our biology in real time. Brain-computer interface research continues to advance. These are not isolated experiments, they're signals of integration.
It's the adjacent possible. At any given moment, certain innovations become viable because the necessary pieces are finally in place. The smartphone required processors, screens, networks, and cultural desire for constant connectivity. When those aligned, an entirely new reality opened. Once the shift occurred, it felt inevitable. Reality expands in steps. Consciousness expands alongside it.
And here's something even more important. Technological change is rarely the first domino. Values shift first. Before renewable energy scaled, public concern about sustainability intensified. Before privacy laws strengthened, discomfort about data misuse grew. Before flexible work became normal, attitudes about autonomy changed. Emotional momentum precedes structural implementation.
That sequence is vital. What people collectively value today determines what gets built tomorrow. When enough individuals shift internally, external systems rearrange to match that shift. Memes, viral narratives, shared digital stories, these are not trivial. They shape perception, they soften resistance, they normalize what once felt radical. What feels disruptive to one generation feels obvious to the next because they were born into an already shifted consciousness.
So, what is moving from fringe to mainstream right now? Decentralized science platforms are rethinking how research is funded and shared. Biodigital interfaces are entering wearable technologies. Longevity research is accelerating. Artificial intelligence is embedding itself into nearly every workflow. These are not isolated curiosities. These are coherent signals. Investment patterns reinforces this. Billions are flowing into AI infrastructure, climate innovation, quantum research, and health technology. Capital follows readiness. When investors sense that cultural appetite and technical feasibility have aligned, momentum accelerates.
And this is where it becomes personal. If imagination precedes manifestation, then collective imagination is directional. What themes repeat across industries, art, media, and research, coherence is forming in the field. Your personal creative process mirrors this pattern. An idea begins as a feeling, then it becomes language, then action, then form. Culture operates on the same blueprint, only at scale. The backdoor to the future is attention.
Pay attention to intersections. When biology and technology merge, something new is emerging. When ethics and engineering share vocabulary, stabilization is underway. When art reflects technological anxiety, implementation is near. Notice shifts in tone. When fear becomes curiosity, adoption is close. When skepticism becomes experimentation, normalization has begun. Expose yourself to diverse inputs, academic research, early stage startup, fringe discussion, interdisciplinary thinkers. The edges reveal what the center will soon adopt.
And most importantly, participate. The future is not delivered to passive observers. It is shaped by those who resonate with emerging possibilities. When you align with a vision, ethical technology, decentralized collaboration, regenerative systems, you add weight to that trajectory. Resonance accumulates until it becomes momentum.
And let's go one layer deeper for a moment. For conscious reality creators, this is not just an interesting cultural observation, it is strategic awareness. If collective imagination is the drafting table for future reality, then where attention goes, construction flows. The story is repeated most often, the fears amplified most loudly, and the possibilities explored most creatively all contribute to the energetic blueprint of what becomes tangible. When you consciously choose what you dwell on, what you explore, what you energize, what you believe, you're not merely reacting to trends, you're participating in probability selection. The future is not fixed, it's weighted, and resonance is weight. The familiar feeling you get when encountering new technology is not coincidence, it's memory of prior contemplation. Culture imagines before it constructs. We imagine before we create. The backdoor to the future is subtle, but it's present in recurring themes, converging disciplines, generational shifts, and capital flows.
Most of all, though, it lives in your consciousness. For reality creators, the mission is not chasing trends, but sensing alignments. When something feels both new and strangely obvious, examine it. When your inner vision matches outer momentum, act. The future does not belong to those waiting for certainty. Tomorrow is already whispering. The question is whether you are listening and whether you're willing to answer.
If this conversation clicked for you, if you felt that strangely obvious spark that we talked about, then hit the like button. It tells the algorithm that this is a topic worth amplifying. Subscribe to stay in the loop and make sure you hit the bell so that you're notified the second a new video drops. If there's someone in your life who needs to see the bigger picture, send them the link. We appreciate you being part of the conversation. Until next time, think differently, dream boldly, and create consciously.